So regarding Spain, when you went there in 2022, I've been to Spain like several times. I recognize for myself, I think the lifestyle in the places I've been in Europe more closely aligned with how I would choose to live my life. And I value, I think, more closely what they value as far as lifestyle goes. But maybe if you could explore some of those themes for yourself and your family of starting in 2022, what did you start to recognize when you were first visiting? Like, oh, this place is, maybe it was like school for your children or just a different cultural experience. But how did your wheels start to turn starting in 2022 that like this could be the place that we come to?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think for us, a lot of it stemmed around the family dynamic, just because to your point, we have kids. And so when we make decisions right now for our life, my husband and I, a lot of it is based on around our kids. We have to make sure that we're putting them in an environment where we feel like they can grow and thrive and be happy, have what they need in terms of that emotional stability, but then also exposure to life and being able to see life in a different way. That was one of the big driving factors. And specifically in Spain, what we noticed while we were there was that things are a lot slower. And granted, I will say I still struggle with that right now, just because I'm like, let's go. And that is not how things work. And so I am very intentionally having to slow down. And that was while we were there as well, slowing down our pace. It wasn't just like, okay, move on to the next and the next and the next. It was like, let's enjoy this moment that we're in. Even everything from eating and going out and having dinner, it was like that was a whole 2 hour kind of span versus where in the US it might take us an hour, sit down, we order our food, we get in, we get out, and we're gone. But it's a slow process of like people coming back to check on you or the food coming out. But then it's being able to have conversations with each other and actually enjoy our presence with one another. So that was a big shift and something that we really noticed. But also, I think too, just looking at the access to resources as well. So one of the things that we recognize and a lot of people were telling us is that there are a lot of healthcare benefits. So here in Europe, you're not necessarily having to spend an arm and a leg to be treated. You have, your set doctor, your set hospital, and people get to know you. They get to know you as a person. So it seems like there's a lot more, it's not as transactional in some instances. And I think that for us was really big because we're very big on community. And so being able to settle down kind of in a place where we can have that community is really important to us. The schools as well. So specifically in Barcelona, that's where we were looking initially. And the schools are highly rated in a lot of the areas there, being able to have international schools and seeing people from different cultures. So it's very diverse there, and we want our kids to have that exposure. So those were some of the things that we noticed, but we also had to get used to some of the things that maybe for us, we didn't think twice about, but coming from kind of the outside into a new culture was like a no-no being there. So there was a little bit of culture shock too, I think, as well.
Maybe what were some of those culture shock moments?
Like the day I was wearing sandals and I got like all of the looks and flip-flops, and I guess apparently it's not a thing, so it was very uncomfortable. We went to Madrid, my son was wearing shorts, and I guess that was problematic as well. There was also the time that we were on the train, and I guess you're not technically supposed to eat on the trains, and you can actually get fined if you eat on trains. And so we actually had this little lady come up to us and was like, no, no, no. And we're just like, okay, well, we're like starving here, but I guess we're not eating right now because you just scolded us. So just things like that. The time when you actually eat is a lot
Hmm.
later. Siesta, people close shop, and that's a thing. Sometimes you don't know when stores are actually going to open because they might advertise being open on Google, but they open when they want to open. So those were some of the things we quickly recognized as
Yeah,
different.
I growing pains, but all good ones. When I was first in Spain, I've always heard of siesta and the Spanish, but I never thought through that or thought it was like a real thing or didn't apply to like modern society. But then my first day in Spain was like they really do close down shop and they
Yeah.
really do close restaurants. And I think one of the things that naturally aligns with me, speaking of lifestyle, is for years now, even before I visited Spain, I would always eat dinner later. By the time I got done with like my day and going to work, coming home, maybe exercising, taking a few moments for myself, I would eat dinner around 9 o'clock. And my family were like, "Oh, you're eating dinner late," or like, "Oh, we didn't want to call you because we didn't want to interrupt your meal." But there, it's normal. That's
Yeah.
fine. And I think just again, understanding how you live your life, might be different for where you're at, but might be aligned with how a different culture like lives theirs. And I think it's always worthwhile exploring that. I was also in Barcelona when I realized I was looking like a very American tourist, and I was wearing Ray-Ban sunglasses, but I don't know, they're very maybe sporty looking or something. And I was like, I need to do something to change up this look. So I went and like while I was out and about and walking, I went to this sunglass place store and I asked the lady for some help. My guidance to her to help me was like, I need to look more European. pick out pick out a pair of glasses for me that's gonna help, me fit in a little bit better.
Yeah.
But all good stuff.
If you enjoyed that clip, the full episode is available here. Go on, press it.